So digging a little deeper into building the business case, as I mentioned, so for many organizations, and especially for a lot of our not-for-profit organizations that we deal with, cost is obviously a key consideration. And what we find is good use cases where it may make sense to at least discuss the possibility of Azure is when organizations are looking at large capital expenditures. So for organizations where existing infrastructure may be nearing end of life and they're looking at a large capital investment, Azure may be a good alternative in this scenario. So again, with our not-for-profits who might have cash constraints or limited resources for large capital expenditure, being able to move those costs to an ongoing operational cost such as Azure can often be far easier for those businesses to maintain and to manage moving forward. Similarly, the scenario where existing capacity is just unable to keep up with demand. So in this case, maybe there's an application that is resource intensive that is constraining other applications on the existing infrastructure. And that organization may need to look to build or purchase additional on-prem hardware to support that growing application. This again is a great example of where Azure can be leveraged to extend your on-prem data center. Maybe move that resource-intensive application up to the cloud, give it the resources it needs to provide, the effective level of service required for your end users to be productive, but also start to free up those resources on-prem that you have to allow your other applications to use the resources they need without having to worry about being resource constrained. Again, another great example of moving that capital potential cost of a new hardware purchase and transition to an operational model by leveraging Azure. The last use case where we can see a lot of value around Azure is when the requirements for either availability, redundancy, or scalability are forcing a change in IT. So maybe in this scenario, we have an application that historically is run in a single server scenario, but based off of the needs of the business, we now need to look at a highly available solution, or we need to look at a DR, for instance. All of these types of scenarios can again require large capital expenditures, which for not-for-profit organizations, as I mentioned, can be a challenge, especially if not planned for. If it has something that has not been budgeted for, and you're now looking at a large capital outlay, these can be challenging times for businesses. And so looking to Azure and being able to move that to a more operationalized cost can often make far more sense and be far more supportable and sustainable for the business.